going to read the last verse of chapter 24, Canto 3. Text number 47. For those of you that are with us without, okay. Just to give a little background on how the chapter begins and how it's ending here. You know, the storyline. By nature, Puranas, they're explaining the Shrutis in the form of narration of histories. And naturally, the histories in the Bhagavatam are focused on Bhagavan. So that one can understand the Shrutis, the story of Kardama Muni, going back and back and back many chapters, Canto 3, one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma, so this is at the very beginning of creation. And Kardama Muni was requested by his father, please assist me. I've created this universe, I need to fill up the universe with good population and as obedient son. And pure devotee, his answer was yes, so he went to the forest to qualify himself to produce good praja. And he was absorbed in meditation upon the personality of Godhead, because it wasn't just tapasya, but it was pleasing the personality of Godhead. And Kardama Muni had a particular rasa, or relationship with the personality of Godhead. Interestingly, parental. He wanted, as one of the good offspring, the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord appeared in the middle of a forest and beginning stages of Satya Yuga, when there wasn't really anything and not too much of anybody either. It was just the beginning stages of creation. So anyway, fast forward, the personality of Godhead appeared, Lord Vishnu, standing on the back of Garuda. Kardama offered his prayers. Lord Vishnu said, I'll appear as your son, I know your heart. You will require a qualified wife. And guess what? A real easy matrimonial arrangement. In 2 days she's going to come here and just say yes. It's really easy. Not always so easy. And Devahuti came, and a commitment was made to accept her in marriage, because it was her desire to marry him. She had heard about him from Narada Muni, so she had given her heart to him. He said yes on a condition that when there's a qualified son, then I wish to depart and enter the Vanaprastha stage of life. That's standard Vedic procedure. Devahuti's father, Swami Manu, he consented. They married right in the forest. Tens of thousands of years of living together passed, living the life of a Brahmana, and his wife, although she was from a royal family, used to all comforts, she was very happy just having next to nothing as far as comforts are concerned, but just being in the service of her exalted, qualified husband. Perfect, chaste lady. And her desire, as was his desire, that they would have children, and recognizing that, he made an arrangement. Without even saying a mantra, he just so desired, and a whole city, a flying city, manifested. And there were attendants waiting for her to dress her finely and etc., etc., etc. They traveled all over the universe doing some sightseeing. And after some time came back, and 9 daughters were produced. During her pregnancy, after those 9 daughters were produced, Lord Brahma came, Brahma being the father of her father and the father of Kardama Muni, along with Narada Muni and Lord Shiva and all kinds of sages and personalities. And the 9 daughters, at Lord Brahma's instruction, were given to others to help fill up the universe with, so they became Prajapatis, and these were their wives. And that's discussed in the 4th canto, who married whom and what happened after that. And Lord Brahma confirmed what Kardama already knew, that within the womb of Devahuti is a form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after some time Kapila was born, after Kapila grew up in a secluded place, this is now the beginning of this chapter 24, Kardama Muni approached his son, knowing his son to be Lord Vishnu, Bhagavan, requesting permission, blessings, to enter into the Vanaprastha stage of life. We discussed all of these things. It's just, so rather than like, it's a mystery. Why did he go to the forest to meditate on Lord Vishnu when he knew that Lord Vishnu was right there in front of him? We won't go there. It's a simple answer. But so with blessings of Kapila Dev, indicating you will achieve perfection, which in all purposes he had already achieved, pure devotion and perfection in the rasa of parental affection, fully realized, perfect in knowledge, perfect in every way. So he's now, Kardama Muni's gone back, left his ashram. Devahuti is still in the ashram with her son, Lord Kapila Dev, and that's how chapter 25 begins. Those two have some discussion. But Kardama Muni is, so it's describing not in slow motion, but elements of what the stage of perfection looks like. What was his experience? How did he get there? So, like in Bhagavad Gita, when in the chapter 14, where Krishna is describing the modes of nature, and says, everyone's influenced by the modes of nature. And there's some rare exceptions, people that are transcendentalists. So then Arjuna naturally asks, what does it look like? And most importantly, how do they get there? So there's just a few verses that answer those questions. Here it's expanded in the Bhagavatam. Not just speaking a principle, but showing by example. That's the Puranic presentation, Kardama Muni's perfection. And then towards the end of this canto, we hear in slow motion how Devahuti similarly achieved perfection. Now she's already perfect, but following the instructions of Lord Kapila, meticulously, in detail, slow motion, step by step, by step, and slowly, how she achieves what her husband achieved. She achieved by the mercy of her husband. Imagine serving a perfect person for tens of thousands of years. Something happens. And so now she's following Kapila Dev's instructions, and her perfection is detailed. This last verse is just a summarization of that stage of perfection. Some of the features, like, how do you recognize a self-realized soul? It's another question in Bhagavad Gita. How does one walk? How does one sit? How does one act? How does one speak? What are the symptoms of a self-realized soul? So we're hearing, saying. The final text begins with a phrase that's very similar to a phrase that's in Bhagavad Gita. Icha devesha vihinena sarvatra sama chetasa bhagavad bhakti yuktena prapta bhagavati gati. Freed from all hatred and desire, Kardama Muni, being equal to everyone because of discharging uncontaminated devotional service, ultimately attained the path back to Godhead. But it doesn't detail, the path back to Godhead, but he went back to Godhead because, as the previous verses described, his mind was completely absorbed in the personality of Godhead. And when, as we read yesterday evening at the Bhakti Vriksha gathering from chapter 8, when the mind is absorbed in the personality of Godhead, that's where you go, back to Godhead. And whatever the mind is absorbed in, that's where you go. So what your mind is absorbed in is really important. And how does that happen? It's bhakti yogena. By discharging uncontaminated devotional service. So, in discharging uncontaminated devotional service, it does not mean that you have to do the pratyahara program, which is you withdraw the extending of consciousness through the senses into the field of activity, the objects of the senses. In bhakti, we extend the senses into the field of the senses in service to Krishna. And squeaky clean, not otherwise. Not a mix of I like, Krishna likes, so it's authorized. I'm doing stuff that it's in the clean category, and I'm enjoying. Or at least I think I'm enjoying. Fruitive activities. So, to achieve pure bhakti, one need not do the pratyahara program. One need not become a sannyasi. One need not karma sannyas. One needs to do karma palatya, and that's extending consciousness into the field of the sense objects with the purpose, very important word, purpose, or intention, sankalpa, that Krishna should be pleased. And a life that's dedicated in that way, anukulyena, Krishna anushilanam, that's uttam bhakti. That's the topmost. Now, in his case, Kardama Muni has opted to go to the forest, and the explanation is to show by example. He didn't need to go to the forest, he was already on the platform of perfection. But yadaracharati shreshtas tatareve tarorjana. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever the shreshta personalities do, the evetara, the people in general, they follow. So he's setting an example. And he went back to Godhead. Now there's different ways to go back to Godhead. But an essential element is the mind is fixed upon the personality of Godhead. So, mind fixed, senses engaged, intelligence absorbed. We had this nice discussion. Young girl asked a question. Is she here today? No. Nice question about what's the distinction between the mind and the intelligence. I mean, you won't find anything about that in Western philosophy. They won't even find the distinction between the mind and soul. What to speak of between the mind and the intelligence and the soul. Metaphysics just doesn't have it. You won't find it. But the Bhagavatam, it's there, and then there's some illustrations of how they work. They work together when things are in proper order. I won't repeat from yesterday evening. It's a nice discussion. Important to understand the distinction. But the intelligence, so that the language of that we read last night, 8.7, and the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, where the stage of perfection of the worshipper of Krishna is these two things. Mind, absorbed in me, intelligence, fully engaged in me. So intelligence gives direction when things are in proper order. Intelligence gives direction to the mind, which gives direction to the senses, which then interacts with objects. That's when things are in proper order. So the intelligence has to be operative and direction giving, discriminating between this and that, and then direction giving, and then direction goes to the mind. Mind your mind. Don't go there. Mind your mind. Go there. We're just hearing Prabhupada give this explanation about training. So people that are unregulated, they need rules. But he was speaking to devotees, he was in Rome, and in Rome, there's many liquor shops. But you're not interested, you don't contemplate, should I go to the liquor shop? He says, it's not an option. He says, because the intelligence and direction giving, the mind doesn't even contemplate it. Because it has nothing to do with service to Krishna. It has something to do with forgetting one's relationship with Krishna. So the mind doesn't even go there. It's as if it doesn't exist. It exists for some people because the mind contemplates, enjoying in different ways in the modes of nature. Or then he gave another example. There are butcher shops and slaughterhouses, and for the devotee, the mind doesn't go there. Because the intelligence is direction giving. The intelligence that comes from Krishna is how to reach him. Madgatena antaratmana shadhavan bhajate yomam samayukta tamomataha. Or dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyantite. Yena mam upiyantite. How to come to him. Intelligence does that. So Kardama is in the forest, and the form of his activity matches the yuga, and it matches the example setter for the Satya Yuga, perfect soul. Prabhupada's example was different. Madhvacharya's example was different. They didn't go into seclusion, they engaged in right up to the final breath. Very, very nice description in the biography of Madhvacharya. His parting from the world, the scene was he was on a veranda speaking, as he always did, about Dvaita, and he was doing his Pancha Veda exposition. This is the biography of his life, speaks like this. And his two fingers are in the air, like we see photos or paintings of him. And right in the middle of the discourse, a shower of flowers came from the sky and completely covered his body. And he didn't hear any sound anymore. And after some time, they removed the flowers and his body was gone. that's not a Vishnu Tattva personality, that's a Jiva Tattva personality. Or in Lilamrita, Prabhupada was, the devotees were attempting, in any way they could think of, to persuade Prabhupada to not depart. So one very intelligent devotee, Tamal Krishna, said, Prabhupada, you're like Arjuna, you will die in the battlefield. Let's go to the West, your devotees are so much eager to get your association. When his body's emaciated. But he's departing, and so instead of departing, whatever life energy you have, die in the battlefield. Prabhupada said, yes, arrange the visas immediately, let's go. So that was his spirit. It wasn't the go to the forest and pratyahara. Now, Bhishma Dev did the pratyahara program, but right up to that, the sun moving in the northerly direction, he was engaged in serving the Vaishnavas, serving his grandchildren, the Pandavas, explaining, giving this wonderful Bhagavatam class to Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers about how to perform the duties of a king, etc., because that was the question presented by Maharaj Yudhisthira. So the stage of perfection, point is, it may look different. And it's not like this is right and therefore that's wrong. Or that's right and therefore this must be wrong. There are principles that are involved, and we should, by become knowledgeable in the scripture, get the big picture. And what's important is where the mind is. And there are different methods to get the mind there. So now let's hear the purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can one understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, and after understanding Him perfectly in His transcendental position, enter into the kingdom of God. The process of entering into the kingdom of God is Tripada Bhuti Gati, which isn't in the purport, which isn't in the verse, or the path back home, back to Godhead, by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life. Kardama Muni, by his perfect devotional knowledge and service, achieved this ultimate goal, which is known as Bhagavati Gati. So that's in the verse. Bhagavati. So in relation to Bhagavan, he achieved the gati, of the destination, the goal of being situated in the spiritual world. No merging being spoken about here. In the previous two purports, Prabhupada jumps on that one. His fixing his mind on Supersoul doesn't mean he became Supersoul. He didn't merge Sayuja Mukti, forget it. He, that's a wrong understanding, and strongly Prabhupada emphasizes this. So, rather, bhakti. In bhakti, very simply, bhakti requires the servitor and the served. And you do the math, and that's two. It's not one. So the individuality is maintained, but the oneness is the oneness of the will of the Supreme, or the Master, and so the will of the servitor is to please or fulfill the will of the Supreme with love and service and devotion. And in that way the mind can be fixed in the personality of Godhead. That's the path of perfection. And one last thing. Sometimes there's this question, maybe you ask the question yourself. If there's really just one thing, then why didn't Krishna make it simple and just say one thing? Because it seems like there's a lot of options out there, and people take this option, that option, the other option, and then they say, you know, there's more than one thing, but it, you know, yatamat tatapat. There's many paths and they all lead to Rome. They all lead to one thing. And the one thing is, everybody knows what that one thing is oneness. That's the goal. Become one with the Supreme. Or go to the heavenly planets and there's nothing more than this. Or whatever are the varieties of ideas that are out there. Why did, common one, why did Buddha's an incarnation of the personality of Godhead? Why did he teach atheism? He taught atheism. Why did he? He's the personality of Godhead. Or Lord Shiva. Why did he teach impersonalism? Covered Buddhism. He's the greatest of all Vaishnavas. Why did he do that? And Vyasadeva is the author of the Vedas. Why did he include things that take people over there and over there and over there, instead of just one thing? And part of the answer is, different ways of answering that, but the Supreme Lord is very kind. And part of his kindness is, he knows that people aren't going to just surrender to him. That's why we're in the material world. Dvesha. Now this verse is saying, Icha Dvesha. That is, Muni overcame Dvesha. He overcame Icha and Dvesha. He was in this neutral space, but his neutral space was, I don't care about anything. He cared about the personality of Godhead, but attraction and repulsion from sense objects. But some people aren't there. Or they think, you know, that's it. Just become neutral. Nirvana. Shanti. And there's nothing more. So to help people go to the next level, there are these varieties of things. There's more to say, but in simple terms. For the purpose of gradual elevation, just like in the 12th chapter, if you can't do this, then you do that. If you can't do that, do that one. If you can't do that, do that one. If you can't do that, do that one. And one who faithfully follows, then one may, of course one may not, but one may come to the stage of perfection. Bahunam jamanamante, gyanavanam prapadyate. If you come to Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna is everything. Surrender to him. But, you know, due to Dvesha, people don't want to take that. No, Krishna is everything. So then, okay, then, so for gradual purification, at least in the modes of nature, different things are presented. That's the purpose. And then this strong statement from the Bhagavatam, if you take one of those things, but it doesn't eventually lead to Vishwaksena Kata Ruchi, to attraction for the topics of the personality of Godhead, Shama Eva Hi Kevalam. Waste of time, meaning in terms of the ultimate purpose of life, you won't attain it. So you've misused your time and your good effort. Now, it's not a misuse in terms of gradual elevation, you know, making the wet wood into dry wood so it can ignite, but if the wood doesn't ignite it, the purpose is to have the wood ignite. What have you achieved? Okay, so you have some dry wood. Well, later you can put it, you can ignite it. Maybe. Maybe it'll get wet again. And aversion to the personality of Godhead, or say it lighter, not taking shelter of the personality of Godhead consciously, but thinking, this is it. Now, where does that faith come to say, this is it, or that's it? The goal is attain the heavenly planets, and there's nothing more. There's a lot of people out there that are religious that think there's nothing more. Krishna says it, and it's true. There's nothing more. The Ferris wheel is, that's all there is. You're down here, and you get on the Ferris wheel, and you, in stages, you go up, 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 up. And then your pious activities become exhausted. You go down, 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 down. And then you take birth again, and then you do some more pious activities and go up, 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 and then down, 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 down. And that's all there is. There's nothing more. There's lots of conceptions that are misplaced, and it's good fortune, great fortune, that someone can understand what the purpose of the Vedas is. Not the Ferris wheel, not so many knots, not entering into nothingness, not becoming one with the Brahman. Those things, there may be some indication of those things for a purpose of making the wet wood into dry wood. But the final purpose should be known. And Bhagavatam makes it very clear. Bhagavad Gita also makes it very clear, but somehow people twist it so it's unrecognizable. That's a great disservice. Great misfortune. It's a disaster, a spiritual disaster. So that ends the chapter. Muni went back to Godhead. And then coming attractions is Devahuti is back at the ashram wondering what's next. I'm attached and I'm stuck in that attachment position. Please help me, my dear son, the personality of Godhead, Lord Kapila. Any discussion? Deliberately a short class because this group likes to ask questions, so I'm allowing for that. Yes?
Regarding that understanding the transcendental nature, it's clear from this verse, it happens through devotion service.
Mm.
And in Bhagavad Gita also, Prabhupada explains the same.
Yes.
So while reading Srimad Bhagavatam, several sections emphasize that aspect, like how Krishna's body is transcendental and Krishna's activities are transcendental, Krishna is above the most, like that. So I have that intellectual understanding, but how do we cultivate, while cultivating bhakti, the understanding of transcendental nature of Krishna?
Well, by fixing the mind on that, by practice of contemplating what you just said, what happens? Gradually, maybe too gradually for our liking, but gradually the contemplating instrument, the mind, becomes cleansed. Cetadarpana marjanam. That's what happens. So the theoretical becomes an object of realization through purification. Following the vidhis comes the fruit. Purification. And in that state of purification, then it's not just theoretical anymore. We discussed this a little bit yesterday, specifically in terms of seeing the supersoul within the heart of all beings. Now there's a conception of that, and in course of time, through purification, one can see. Now that seeing isn't necessarily the seeing that we're When we think about, with these eyes you can see super soul. Obviously it's not that, because these are material and super soul is not material. But one can see in a different way. We'll have to wait to experience what that seeing is like. That's not seeing with these eyes, that's for sure. The experience is direct, and it's, Prabhupada gives the explanation, as much as we can see one another face to face, seeing is vivid and vibrant and vital. Anything else? Yeah?
Maharaj, I have a question about like when there are different speakers who give the same message, Prabhupada's message from Prabhupada's purport. But when we hear from some speakers, it feels like, to me it feels, taking action, springing to action, that happens. But with other speakers, even though it's the same message, I am not able to connect. So I was thinking, Maharaj, is that because of my own likings of like how
That's
it
possible.
should be presented, or it's with
There
the
could be
speaker?
many explanations, that's one.
So how to overcome that, Maharaj?
Don't worry
Because
about
it
overcoming it.
feels
Just
like
go on hearing. Just go on hearing. And if there's some discerning, that is, the intellect faculty is in the on position, are these messages in keeping with the message of disciplic succession? And if not, then there can be some concern on your part. And if, on the other hand, if they resonate, they're in harmony with the message of disciplic succession, then there's going to be varieties of experiences in hearing from those persons, and that's perfectly fine. Okay? Yes, Maharaja?
Guru Maharaj, we are hearing this word Icha and Dvesha with regards to Kardama Muni here. And I'm saying after overcoming Icha and Dvesha, but we don't see any of those tinges in him so far. Does it mean he was because of his worldly duties? Or?
This is my understanding of what it means. In Madhurya Kandambini, by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there's this very detailed and somewhat technical, it even takes a chart to understand what he's saying, like visually. But the essence is, there's a stage of perfection where it's absolute. There's a stage prior to that where it's complete. But like that. In short, no, that's not what there was previously some tinge, and now the tinge is gone. Complete. Absolute.
Serving in neutrality.
Serving in neutrality?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Serving in neutrality towards material attraction and repulsion? Or serving in Shantarasa? Because
Yes, serving in Shantarasa.
well, Shantarasa is not in the position of Dasya yet. Dasya is service. Shanta is service has not yet fully awakened. It's neutrality.
I'm asking this because somebody was sharing with me that I don't really feel any enthusiasm, and I feel like I don't have any feelings. So
That's a feeling.
I just wanted to, whatever is given to me, the service, I just want to do it and just.
That's service. That's dasya.
Mm-hmm. But my concern is that won't it become, the heart won't become hard, that not really having that kind of a feeling.
We all have to begin somewhere, don't we? So, you know, it's a don't worry about it kind of an answer. Through association of service where you have no preference to this or that, purification will take place. Purification takes place prior to that. A plant hears the holy name. There's purification taking place. And the flowers of that plant are being offered to the deity. There's involuntary devotional service being rendered because of somebody takes the flower and offers it to the deity. Purification is taking place. No attraction. Purification is taking place. As long as purification is taking place, then, of course, there's different rates of spiritual progress, but spiritual progress will be made just from that purification. Unknowing devotional service, or unpreferential devotional service. Whatever service is assigned to me, that's nice. So they shouldn't worry about it, you shouldn't worry about it. In the course of time, some attraction in different ways of liking service. Yes.
Maharaj, yesterday morning class you were talking about how the Lord doesn't interfere with the people's free will. I was recalling when the demigods, they ask Lord Vishnu for help when there's a demon in the material world and that's disrupting them in their work. So they're asking Vishnu on their part of their free will, and Vishnu's helping them.
Yes.
So I didn't know how to understand that.
I don't understand what you don't understand.
So
He's helping them doesn't mean their free will gets crushed. They're expressing their free will, he's reciprocating. Is that a problem?
So when they're asking on their free will.
Yeah, he's reciprocating.
Oh,
He doesn't
okay.
interfere, he reciprocates.
Okay.
Supposing your mother cooks something and she asks you, can you offer this on the altar? So you say, sure. And you take the offering, it's still bhoga, it's not offered yet, and you place it before Krishna. Essentially you're saying, my dear Lord Krishna, or Gornatali, or whatever, please accept. That's your free will. You didn't have to do that, you did that. And there's reciprocation. It's not your free will is being interfered with. He's reciprocating. And if you don't offer, then he doesn't interfere. If you offer, he doesn't interfere. He accepts. Reciprocates. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. Shankadara, you have something?
Yeah, Maharaj. Icha, Dresha, Samutpana verse in Bhagavad Gita when we were discussing. And today's discussion, it felt like dovetailing part, like, in the beginning.
Yes.
Is
Unavoidably so. To think otherwise is artificial. I have no icha. Like this, you know, on whatever service. So, there's some icha. And we connect that with Krishna, it's dovetailing. In the mature stage, it's Kardama Muni. In the immature stage, it's dovetailing. Yes?
So it's a gradual purification by just dovetailing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some person seems to stuck there, like.
Well, you know, Krishna is very kind. Let's take a little example. Mahaprasadam. Here comes the Rajbhog offering of so many things. So, one approach is just close your eyes, mix it all around, and whatever comes out, that's what comes out. It's all kind of merged together. It's one approach. It's all Mahaprasadam. I don't want to be liking this one and liking that one less. Then another is, I'd like to see the nice offering that was offered to Krishna. Krishna tasted this. How nicely was it prepared? Oh, that was very nice. Let's see the other one, how nice. Like Madhavendra Puri, wanting to taste the kheer that was offered to Gopinath. And his taste was so refined that just by tasting he could understand how it was prepared without even asking the cook. Just tasting it. So which one is higher? I'm or I want to see how Krishna enjoyed. Yeah.
Maharaj, in regards to Vanaprastha.
Vanaprastha. Yes.
So I'm at 42 now.
Yeah.
So
You're getting there.
so we hear some statements about a particular timeline, like 50 years, and some statements about a particular maturity of devotion service that qualifies us to take that stage, along with completing the family duties. So what should I be cultivating now, apart from practicing whatever devotion service I'm trying to practice now, towards that goal, to get to that stage?
I'll suggest two things. One is your core Krishna consciousness that makes you or anybody eligible to do anything properly. You know, that means your core sadhana in a qualitative, conscious, thoughtful way. And then second is specific to that application of service, that the Vanaprastha stage. There are literatures, there's Bhagavatam references. There are devotees that have contemplated the topic. You know, so familiarize yourself through the hearing and chanting and reading process of trying to understand in principle the subject. So, what can I do today? You cultivate an understanding of the subject. I'll give, 4 references. One is in Canto 7. Narada speaking to Vyasa, Narada speaking to Yudhisthira. Canto 11. Krishna speaking to Uddhava. A third one is, I just found this out the other day, but from Baltimore. Huh? Jai Gaur Sundar wrote an article and it's published in Dandavats on Vanaprastha. I requested him, apparently he did it, collected some thoughts, because he's well read. And then a fourth one is Devaki Dasi, gave a presentation at ILS on Vanaprastha Ashram. I didn't know about it, but it must be recorded and you can try it here. Then you can, correspond with those persons, at least those two. A fifth person is Yadu. He was serving in Malaysia for so many years. Now he's a sannyasi, but he wanted to start a ministry, Vanaprastha ministry. Well, you can inquire from those two, they'll know his name. Who, now he's a sannyasi, but he had some deep thoughts, and you could inquire from them and just get to know the subject matter better of what does it look like, how do you get there? You educate yourself. Yes. Volume.
Guru Maharaj, I was thinking that in the chanting of the holy name, I don't know whether it's a proper understanding or not. Keeping one time for chanting every day.
Keeping what for chanting?
Regularly, chanting at the same time.
Oh.
So if that is not happening, getting some irritated and not disturbed, and because my understanding is, sometimes regularly it will happen, but in some situations it might not happen.
Correct.
So we have to make a time for that, and whatever the mind fixed that we can do in the morning times, whatever the fixed time that regularly that we are doing.
Yes.
We can do it at that time when it is a leisure time.
Got it.
Right? But I was just hearing from someone, it's getting irritated and not and beating up themselves so much that I'm not able to. I don't know how to understand is the right way, because it is attachment.
Is what
to
the right
holy
way?
name.
Beat yourself up?
Is it the attachment to the holy name that's the reason that they are doing like that, or?
I don't know. I don't know the person. Depends on the person. But a simple rule of thumb is regulation promotes the quality of goodness. And therefore it's good to be regulated. And there's always, from time to time, there are circumstances that cause irregulation. So it's good to be regulated with plan B. And then the very next day, you're back to plan A. To accommodate the irregularity, there's plan B. There's a plan for it. You can stay regulated with plan B on those days that just plan A doesn't work. Then the very next day, plan A. Now, that's a little, some people may say it's regimented or restrictive or something. It's mode of goodness. And mode of goodness, there's regulation. And so then in the anticipation of this is my morning time plan A, you're even before the time comes, like the night before you take rest, you're anticipating that lovely time when you're going to be with Krishna. And then anticipating in that way, when the time comes, you're fully there. It's part of the upliftment of regulation. It's the devotional anticipation of, this is my time with Krishna, exclusive time with Krishna, not doing anything else, I'm doing that. And then there's plan B. Make your best effort that plan B doesn't become plan A. You stay with plan A. That's mode of goodness. And the mind being disturbed is just part of being in the material world. The more the mind can be attached to pleasing Krishna, in principle, then the mind can become steady and not disturbed. That, the circumstances may change, but that doesn't change. That's the unchanging ballast that keeps the ship from rocking. It says, my life is for pleasing Krishna! Exclamation point. And I don't depart from that. And that can help this person you're speaking about, or anybody, rather than beating themselves up. Just go take that emotion and go to Krishna with that emotion. And Krishna will help. If one has faith, Krishna will help you all the more. Okay, we're going to end. It's time. Srila Prabhupada.